Hey guys, welcome back to Jesus for Bucks. Today we are looking at the question of faith over fame and whether or not you can be ambitious and still be living a God-filled life. Is there actually a cost to Christianity? What does it mean to chase success and money? What does it mean to choose faith in a world that celebrates fame, money, and results? So today I'm joined by my amazing guest, Ria.
Hi.
So Ria is an incredible singer, producer, videographer, writer, and generally just creative. So kind of has that whole space on lock. And just a really lovely person as well. So we're going to talk about what you might have to give up to follow Jesus, what that actually looks like, and why people, especially young people, are even interested in that kind of lifestyle. Can you have faith and still be famous or wealthy, or does that go against the very meaning of being a Christian? So before we start, how's your day been? What have you been up to today?
Good. I mean, just traveling, honestly. As soon as I wake up, put the heating on, it's freezing. So yeah, just try to have a slow morning and then, just traveling today. Yeah.
Was the train all right?
It was, it was calm. It was good, yeah.
Cool.
It was okay. Yeah.
So we know you're a singer, a really good one.
Oh, thank you.
So you're welcome. You should check her new single is coming out next week.
Is it next week? 13th of December.
2 weeks time.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
But by the time this video comes out, it'll be out. So you should go check it. Yeah. So my question is, if you could do a duet with any two artists, who would it be?
Oh my gosh. I'm like, who? I think, you know what? I really love Alchemist. I'm such a big fan. I guess he's considered more of a musician. So I'd love to collaborate with him. And I think, who else? Who else I want to collaborate with? I don't know. I think I like quirky. I like different. So I honestly, Alchemist comes to the top of my mind. And Olivia Dean. I really like her.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fair.
she's cool.
Yeah, she's good. All right, good choices. And another question. In terms of crowds for concerts, which country do you think has the best crowds, the UK or the USA?
The UK. Yeah.
Hands down.
Hands down. Anytime I look at videos, they're shouting the loudest. So, it has to be the UK.
I picture that Giveon crowd when he had the wine in his hand.
God. She must have felt, I would have had goosebumps.
Right?
Yeah, amazing.
It was like romance in the entire crowd, man.
Yeah, he was. He was.
So, onto the topic. When you hear the phrase faith over fame, what comes to mind for you?
It's quite interesting. I think faith over fame. I think I just think about what success means. And I think success means different things to different people. I think it's how you measure what success is. I don't know. I do feel like faith and fame, I don't think they have to differ, but I guess it depends on what you mean or like what you define fame as, what it means to a person.
Yeah. So when you're like, as a singer, have you ever kind of felt in this space of, I want to be successful, but like as in the success that I guess the world sees as like loads of money, like loads of opportunities to do X, Y, Z, but like also I don't know how to do this in a way that's honouring God. Like, have you ever had that?
I don't know, because I think from when I was young, I've always had this idea of like, I want to make history. I want to, I just want to, I used to say like, I want to be a multi-celebrity. What even is that? I was so young, I was like, I want to be an actress, a runner, a dancer, everything. And then I think the older you get, I do think your desires change. The closer you come to God, I do think it's more about being his image bearer as opposed to like what you want. But then what you want, it does change. So, I mean, what about yourself? Have you thought about that in terms of yourself and your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think yours is, I'd go with that in terms of as you get older, your definition of success definitely changes, and like what you want starts to like mold more into what does God want for me as well. In my own life, I'd say for sure, like probably on the academic front, and then also on the like sporting front.
Yes.
When I finished sixth form, I remember that my yearbook quote thing was like double Olympic gold medalist.
Yes. You said I know what I want.
And I'm still running track, and I still do want to go to the Olympics, and like I have these goals and stuff. But the difference for me now is that I don't define myself like primarily as an athlete or primarily as someone who went to a specific university or studied XYZ or wants to do something in the future. Like I define myself first by like my positioning as a child of God, and then everything else comes from.
So it's not something you lead with, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I think
that
that's definitely changed. Like when I was younger, it was definitely, I'm going to go to this uni, I'm going to study this, I'm going to make so much money, I'm going to buy XYZ. Like, yeah. I used to be filling out the whole Argos catalogue and showing my mom, this is what I want. But yeah, I think it's shifted for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I should probably also ask you, what is your faith background?
Yeah, I'm a Christian. I'd say I gave my life to Christ when I was about 15. So there used to be this Christian camp called Soul Survivor. They would take us every single year. And that was just the year I was like, okay, God, I'm feeling it. Yep, I do want you. So yeah, that's my background.
Yeah. Ever had anything that was like difficult to understand in the like, I guess like puberty era, like of being a teenager with faith?
Do you know what? I have to say, I think I was really blessed because when I was age 15, I had moved to a church. It was like a Nigerian church, very, very different to what I was used to. But then that was the first time I had seen young people that were really serious about God. And I didn't realize you could be at a young age. So I think because I was always in church, and even like my creativity, it was really defined through church. Like drama, it was in church. Singing, it was in church. So yeah, I do think because I had that safety net, it made it easier. I don't think I had that many struggles. I'd say the struggles came a bit later, actually, when I was more an adult today now. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I'd say.
Fair enough. Nice. And yeah, I've spoken a bit about my faith background as well in here, so I'll go on to my question. So starting with the idea of cost, faith is often talked about as a gift, but there's also a sense that following Jesus asks something of us. So in your experience, what do you think is costly about Christianity in real life? And like I'm using the quotation marks of costly because I have like an opinion on that, but you might have something you want to say about that as well.
I'd like to hear your opinion. Okay, should I say mine and then?
Yeah, you go first.
I think what feels costly is you're kind of giving up your right to yourself, in a sense of like in the Bible it talks about dying to self, and I do think that is costly. Sometimes it will cost you friendships, it will cost you opportunities, it will cost you different things. You can have all these ideas, but realistically, if you are following God, it's His plan that is the best way. So yeah, I do think when I think about what's costly, I do think about friends and things like that. Yeah. What was your idea? I'd like to know.
I think that like being a Christian and following Jesus and saying this is my faith, this is what I believe, it does have a cost, but I put it in speech marks because I think that for me, having been on the other side of it, where I like completely stepped away from faith from like 13 to 20, and like that happened during like me growing into an adult and also whilst I was at university and all these other things.
Yeah.
So like for sure, like I think the cost of not following Jesus definitely outweighed the cost of following him.
Wow, I like that.
So that's why I would put it in speech marks because, you know, I've spoken, I will speak on this podcast about like the fact that I had like a very bad issue with like alcohol and just drinking all the time and going out all the time and doing all these different things, and that cost me like parts of myself. Like it cost me my happiness because I just stopped feeling anything, so I was just completely like empty. And obviously like I think the cost of not feeling anything is definitely a bigger cost than say not going out to a club because I don't want to anymore. Absolutely. But I also think the cost is different because it's not like you know, if there's like alcohol on the table, I don't want to have it anymore because like it's not like, now that I've become like different in Christ, and I guess that's the dying to self thing you were talking about. Like it's not something that interests me anymore. Like going to clubs is something that I can do, but it's not something that I do very often because it's not fun. So I feel like the cost doesn't really feel like a cost by the time you get to a like stage in Christianity, because you're just like, I'd rather do these things that are like good for me. Yeah. And you also like feel better when you do them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I feel like even what you're speaking about, it's, you have a peace of mind. Like there's just a peace when you are walking with God, and it's not it's not easy, but I think it's definitely worth it. And I think as time keeps going on and you're able to kind of look back and trace the hand of God on your life and see, oh my gosh, oh, he was there in that. I was like, oh, he saved me from that. Oh, I needed that. So sometimes you can't see it in the moment, but I do think looking back is like it's good because you're able to see, oh, I needed him basically. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And like for people who aren't Christian yet necessarily, like exploring that faith or any faith, this idea of dying to self, like we're not actually as Christians just like killing each other, right? So like,
Oh yeah.
can you?
Yeah, all the Christianese, isn't it? Okay. I mean, yeah, how would I explain dying to self in simple terms? I think, I think about the idea of like, so again, a bit Christianese, but like carrying your cross. And I think what that looks like, it's you are making this daily pursuit with the Lord, and you're walking with him intentionally, and I would kind of describe it like walking with a friend, and you're learning about this person and you're communicating with this person and you're making an effort to get to know this person. And I think the exchange of that is that it's, I guess it's a bit like a mirror, like you're starting to see yourself a bit more and things begin to make sense. I really do find it's such a beautiful journey of like, even though it is dying to self, and dying to self, I guess the painful part is that, oh my gosh, like, okay, I want to change, I want to be better. And sometimes that is hard, especially if your environment hasn't changed. But I think if you have that personal relationship with the Lord and you're spending time with God, that definitely helps that process. So, yeah,
Cool. Thank you.
that's one set.
So I've heard people describe Christianity as like a list of things that you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. Have you ever like felt that or seen that in the lives of people like your friends or that kind of thing? And what would your advice be / what would you say?
Yeah, do you know what? As you said that, it made me laugh because it made me think of a friend that I do have, and I think just seeing her journey, for her, it was like, I remember she would tell me like, I'm just so bored, like she'd be like, I'm so bored, like what do I do? And because she was so used to going out and like, right, I'm gonna go here, loads of different motives, like her summer always full, and I think for her it was like her relationship with the Lord had developed in a way where she's like, okay, I know I'm not supposed to be there, but then what do I do? But I think this is why community is so important. I think just being around like-minded people and people that are trying to get to the same place that you are going. I think the Bible describes it as like we're all running this race. Like we're in a race. We're all running our own races, but we're in a race. So yeah, I just think community will help, and I do think being honest will help as well. I think sometimes it does feel like, oh, but I can't do this, I can't do that. But I think naturally, as you draw closer to God, your desires really do, they change. They do change. So yeah. I mean, what would you say? Because for your own journey, because you said there was years where you was like, I was doing this, I was like university, all of those things. Did it feel like that when you came to Christ?
I think I came to Christ at like the worst moment in my life. So I wasn't doing any of that stuff at that point. I was just kind of not doing a lot, to be honest. So I think then after that, the people that I'd done that with, like they'd all disappeared. So for me, it was like rebuilding from scratch. So it was more like, okay, so I guess I wasn't exactly bored at the beginning, but I definitely was like, well, this is what I used to do on this day. Or like to go and have fun to me was, you know, to like go out or to hang out with friends and that kind of thing. But I realised that all the things I actually enjoyed doing were what you said, which was community. And you can find other ways to do those without like needing to do like have alcohol or do anything like that. And it can actually be enjoyable. So yeah, it wasn't like a crazy list. I feel like the harder part, which I'm going to be talking about like next season, like going into depth and detail, was like the relationships thing, because I feel like
Like friendships or relationships? Like?
Relationships.
Oh, okay.
Because like I was surrounded by a lot of my friends who really like were boy crazy.
Okay.
So it's like you'd meet up with the girls and everyone would be talking about the guy that they liked or the guy they were seeing, etc., etc. So it was more like learning how to adjust like what the meetings were like. So it's like, oh, I can meet up with like my girlfriends and we can talk about guys, but in a way that's respectful and in a way that's like, oh, there's actually a lot of us who want the same thing. Or we can talk about like, I don't know, like you can still talk about celebrities. It's not like you'll just have to sit there like with the Bible open, just like,
Right.
do you know what I mean?
Right,
So
right.
it was like a readjustment as opposed to like, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
But I think also if you're a student, like in a student city,
Yeah.
getting tapped into a student church, I'd say like for sure.
I
Because
think that's helpful, yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I was in university, yeah, it was difficult. It was really hard for me, and that was the first time I had moved away from home. But I think when I was really intentional about trying to like go to youth events, things like that, and it really did help. Yeah, so it does help.
yeah. Have you ever had a moment or seen someone have one where you realised that faith was asking you to walk away from something, maybe an opportunity, relationship, a way of presenting yourself that looked amazing from the outside?
Gosh.
So I ask you the follow-up question as well.
You can, yeah.
It's like, how do you manage that, and how do you deal with the fact that like if we believe that God is like all powerful and that he plans things for us like intentionally for our good, why is he telling us to step away from things that are good?
Oh gosh. Honestly, again, I talk about this a lot, but I have to trace his hand. And when I say that, it's like I have to look back on my life and look at the moments where I'm like, no, but God came through for me on this. And I think it's that it's like remembering, and I think about David in the Bible. A lot of the times it says that he would preach to himself, like he would encourage himself in the Lord. And I think that's kind of a form of encouraging yourself. You're looking back and you're like, okay, where was God in this? So if he was in this, then he has to be in this because he was there. So I think I do that quite a lot. I'm like, I have to look back and trust that if he was carried me through that, then he will carry me today and he will carry me beyond. And I think also there's just this sense of I just have to wait and watch. And I think if you're a bit like me, sometimes you can struggle with a bit of perfectionism and it can be difficult. You're like, oh, you just want to get things right. And I think in that mindset, it's a bit like, oh, I don't want to do anything wrong. But I think you just have to trust that the Lord is with you and he is carrying you, but he's also for you as well. He's not looking at you, waiting for you to just trip up or, he's not playing mind games with you. So yeah, I do think it's a faith thing. It's you're learning to trust him through it. It's not easy, but it's worth it, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I think tracing his hand is a good like little metaphor. I like that.
Yeah.
I'd say I probably do a bit of that, and yeah, I mean, I guess you're also going to be talking to him at the same time. Like, I'm big on just being like, God, I'm really angry. I'm really annoyed, and just saying like plain how I feel. Like, I don't understand this.
Yeah.
X, Y, Z. I think the concept of things happening in our lives that are intentional and planned, but that we don't understand right now, I feel like that's a very difficult human emotion to grapple with, because I feel like a lot of people, especially young people who want to know their purpose and want to know exactly what comes next to like the T, having to come to terms with the fact that we serve a God who doesn't work like that at all. It's difficult. And sometimes I read some of the Bible stories and I'm like, I don't know how you had this faith. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, was it like the Jericho Walls one? Like, man, they're marching around for years or something.
Honestly.
And then you're just like still singing and still believing that it's going to happen even if you can't see it. Like, I can't even imagine how Moses must have felt standing in front of the sea after, like, imagine you're like, I'm going to go on route B, and God's like, no, route A. And you're like, okay, fine, I trust you. And then you get there, and it's literally the ocean. Like,
it's like, God, where am I? What's
like,
going on? Please help me.
Pardon.
Yeah.
But I think, like, the tracing of hands thing in your own life is so good, and then also extending it to the actual Bible, because we have, like, an entire collection of stories of people like humans having human emotions like
Yeah,
us,
yeah.
not understanding, but taking a leap of faith when they couldn't see anything and landing on solid ground. And I think at the end of the day, like part of it, as I mean, we're both kind of perfectionists, I guess. Some of life becomes easier for me, and did once I fully like started living as a Christian, because it's like even if I take this wrong turn or what appears like a wrong turn to me, as long as I'm still like focusing on you, then I'm gonna end up in the right place.
Yeah.
So like not getting like a result that you wanted, for example, or not
Yeah.
getting a test score, it's like, oh, that sucks. But then at the same time, it's like, oh, God knows what he's doing. So like it's like not being inactive in that. Like obviously don't go into a test thinking, oh, God knows what he's doing without having revised for it. But at the same time, if things don't work out the way you wanted, then you just know that, like, you know, there's that song that's like, if it's not good, it's not the end or whatever. So
And I do like what you said about appears the wrong way, because I think oftentimes we can be like, oh yeah, but maybe again it's like that, it's that perfectionism, like, oh yeah, but maybe I should do this or maybe I should do that. But then I think again it's like you just have to trust God that he will carry you through. And I think there is a scripture that talks about kind of, I will tell you to walk to the, or when you are walking to the right or to the left, I will say, this is the way, walk in it. So sometimes it's that, like, God may not tell you right then in the moment, but you actually have to take a step. And then when you begin to walk, it's like, oh, okay, he's telling me to go this way. Okay. And then you keep walking. So I would say, even to encourage someone in the moments where you do feel stuck, it's like, I would encourage them to keep walking. Because oftentimes we can be like, because I've had this where I'm like, oh yeah, but God hasn't told me. I prayed and he's not telling me the answer, so I'm just going to stay. But then it's like time passes and you have to keep moving, and moving by faith. That's what it will look like. So, yeah.
Prayer, you mentioned. I have a question.
Yeah.
Moments when you've prayed and it's felt like you haven't had any response. What do you do with that? Especially if it's over a prolonged period of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, God, hello.
Yeah.
What's going on? I used to really struggle with this, because I kind of thought that if I don't hear God telling me to do something, I thought I was being more obedient with not doing anything. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do anything. But meanwhile, I'm like, I need to make this decision, or I need this thing to happen. But over time, I've had to breathe. And I've had to be like, you know what? God ain't going to leave me, you know. He's not going to leave me. I've had to, when I can't hear God, I remember my pastor had told me, he said, God gives you either one of three answers. It's either yes, no, or wait. And I think sometimes in the silence and in that place of like, okay, Lord, I can't hear you, I've just had to make a decision. And even if I logically don't think it's the best decision, I kind of like what you said, if I am praying about it, and if I am a child of God and he is with me, then I know he will be with me in that decision that I do make. So, and I think another thing that comes to me is that this idea of like a parent and a child, it's like your child lives with you for all that time. You're training your child, you're teaching them things, and then you push your child out into, you know, the big wide world, and you've kind of have to trust that everything that you've taught that child, they will go and do for themselves. And I kind of see it like that with God. Yeah, it's like, well, I'm reading the Bible, like I'm learning about God. So if I'm walking, I trust that the things that I have learnt, you know, I will carry out. So, and that the Holy Spirit is within me. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess for like people starting out in faith, it can be difficult to think of someone who you're speaking to who doesn't speak back. And I know there's like biblical scholarly debate on this. Do you think that God answers every prayer, or do you think there are some that he doesn't have to answer?
That's a good question. I do think God answers every prayer, but I think in the prayers that we can't hear him, that's still him answering. So I do think he answers every prayer, but I think I think as humans, we are used to that natural conversation. We audibly hear people. So I think not hearing that that is hard. But again, I think in those moments, I think a lot of the times we forget that we do have the word of God, and it does talk about it being like a lamp, like it's a light. It brings clarity, it brings understanding, and I think there's a point in your Christian walk where you do kind of make peace, where it's like, I'm not gonna have the answers for everything, but one day everything will make sense. But for now, that's kind of what it is, and I think I have made peace with that for myself. So that has helped me quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. What would you say?
I think God does answer every prayer as well. I guess it's like what we might think of as an answer isn't what we see or hear. So then sometimes we think, okay, he hasn't answered that because he hasn't done what we wanted. But yeah, sometimes the silence in itself is the answer, like you said. And then sometimes if you think it hasn't been answered, then you look like down in like life, like 5-10 years, maybe even like when you get to heaven someday, and you're like, oh, that's why you did that. That was the answer that I got. Like, and I feel sometimes we probably, by the time we get an answer to certain prayers, we probably forgot that we even prayed them.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
But yeah, I look back at some things in my life and I think, you know, I prayed for XYZ, I prayed for this, I prayed for that. It hasn't manifested itself in the exact way that I thought it would, but the basis of those prayers is still there. Like maybe I prayed for this specific job, but I didn't get that job.
Yeah.
But then when I look at my life, I still have like money to go out and spend time with family and friends. I still can buy myself nice things if I want to. I still can treat myself to XYZ. So it's like what I was actually praying for was financial provision as a basis. It didn't come in the form of this job, but I still have the financial provision.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's a good example. Yeah.
Yeah. Faith and fame and wealth. Oh, actually, I wanted to speak about her name's like Letitia or something. If you watch Black Panther,
Yes.
yeah. So you probably know about her after she finished filming the first one. Then she was like, obviously, like went global. Everyone loved it, and then people were saying, like her agents were saying to her, book this gig, book this, book that. But she decided to disappear from the spotlight for like I think it was like 6 months or something.
Yeah.
And she said that she basically prayed about it and was like, God, like I finally have the success and stuff that I wanted, but it felt like it wasn't the right time. So she came back afterwards and said that he'd basically told her to like, okay, you've done that, but now I want you to not take on any gigs, sit in the word with me, go to church and like really like find more of me, discover more of me type thing. So I feel like that's a very interesting example of like God telling you to do one that like you being told to do one thing when you really want to do the other thing. Yeah. It's just like her agents thought she was crazy because they were like, you've got so many directors lined up.
Yeah.
So I guess that's like an extreme example of faith. But I think it's also like for me, that was difficult for me to wrap my head around the understanding of that because I feel like I'm so hard-headed. There have definitely been points in my life when God has been like, not just like a poke, like do this, like do this. And I'm like, I think I should do that. And I feel like he's genuinely just sitting up there like, oh my life. So, like, some of the things in my life I feel like would have been less hard if I just listened to the first nudge.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's like you obviously pray for this success and you pray for things to be good and then it happens, you have everything lined up and then he tells you not to go and you don't go. So my question is, how can you, like, I guess, looking at it firstly from a new Christian point of view, like, how do you even remedy that if you've prayed for something that you finally got and then everything lines up and now he's telling you to do something else? So like, what does that mean? And then from like the, I guess, Christian for a little bit of time point of view, how do you build your faith up to get to that stage of being able to say, this is everything I've wanted, but I guess I want you more?
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think, and I think even from a new Christian to Christian that's walked with the Lord 10 years, I think there's lessons that you will still have to learn, and you never stop learning, I think. And that's why the Bible encourages us to have this childlike faith, because I think sometimes we can think like, oh yeah, I'm good, like I've been walking with God for all these years, but it can still be very hard. And I'd say, I think I'd give the same advice to two sides. I'd say that God sees the whole picture, but we only see a small, like, or kind of, you can look at it like God sees the whole puzzle, but we only see one piece of it. So I think for us, we're like, yeah, but right now this is the situation, this is what's happening. But I think we have to remember that we serve a God that sees everything. So he sees 10 years from now, he knows what's going to be good for you 5 years from now. And I think, again, it's having that trusting that, like, okay, I only see a little piece of the puzzle, and I don't know what's actually coming next, but he knows what's coming next. But then also, I'd also just encourage, I think a great way to get clarity is to be around people that are for you, but also serve God as well, and just getting more wisdom. It's okay. Like, it's okay to talk to people and say, do you know what do you think about this? Like, I'm about to make this decision. But ultimately, I believe the Lord wants you to get to a place where you have that confidence to say, okay, because it does say, like, we are his sheep, and we know his voice. Like, we will know his voice. And I think it's having that confidence that, okay, this is what the Lord is telling me to do. This is the decision I'm going to make. And sometimes another person can help you to make that decision as well. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Cool. Would you take the same view on, like, friendships, relationships? Like, actually, let me rephrase that. Going into a friendship with someone or starting a relationship with someone, if you're praying about it. Last term, I had one of my close friends starting to see this guy, and she was like, she kept praying, like, God, if he's the right one, like, let me know, show me a sign, blah, blah. No response.
Oh.
And she was kind of like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. Like, why is he not telling me? Like, we're at date 6. Like, I should probably,
Yeah. Date 6. Yeah.
What would you say to her?
Oh. So date 6 and she's heard nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like, do you know what comes to me? I mean, this is something I just use for myself, but when the Bible talks about you'll know them by their fruits. So I think sometimes...
What are the fruits? What does that mean?
Oh, yeah, what are the fruits? So the fruits...
Well, you don't have to say what the fruits are.
Oh.
What does it mean?
So, like, for example, are they gentle? Are they kind? Do they have self-control? And I think oftentimes I do think we can over-spiritualize it, where we're like, if I don't see this thing in my dream, he cannot be the one for me. But I do think sometimes it just takes an approach of, like, who is this person that I'm talking to, like, and what are they displaying to me right now, and how do they talk about their family, how do they talk about their life, about their purpose, where they're going. So I do think through conversation you can really find out a lot about a person. And again, like you do, of course, you have people that they can talk the talk, they can sweet talk, but they're not really that person. But I do think ultimately that will always come out, especially if you are praying. So yeah, I'd just look at it realistically.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
I like the fruits idea. Yeah, I think
Do you?
I do. I'm a
Okay.
fan. Might
Okay.
use that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think also, like, building on that, like, in the same sphere. Like, if you are a Christian and you've accepted Jesus, then you believe that you have, like, Jesus in you as well as, like, you know, around you, etc. So, like, you've got that spirit of discernment within you. So
Right.
I feel like I'd probably say to her, like, if you're getting to date 6 and you haven't had, like, sometimes the sign isn't like this happens and he's the one. Sometimes it's like, if he hasn't displayed anything to you, or you don't feel like in your spirit that he isn't the one, or fundamentally you shouldn't be seeing him,
Yeah.
maybe that's part of it as well. I feel like sometimes,
Day
like,
6 that's
exactly,
a lot of time.
exactly. Because I'm like, I feel like God must be up there as well sometimes, just like, listen, like, I've given you the Holy Spirit inside of your body, bro.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
if it wasn't meant to be, like, why are you coming to me? Use that first. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
sometimes we forget that we actually have, like, God
Holy
in
Spirit
us. You know what I
inside
mean?
us. Yeah.
Like, before we go, like, elevate everything to, like, HR head office,
Yeah.
like, let's check in with customer service first.
I've never heard it like that. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know what they're doing right now, to be fair. I'm
okay.
not sure. I'm waiting for
I
the
mean,
next
hopefully
update.
she'll have clarity.
Yeah.
You know?
I'll let you guys know in the next episode. So, one big question that I have thought about a lot, and one that, you know, I've spoken with uni friends, mainly ones who weren't Christian before, is can you genuinely be a Christian and be famous or be wealthy? Or does the very, like, idea of living like Jesus prevent you from, like, being that?
You know what, though? Again, I do think about, okay, because I think being famous, I understand that to be a person of great influence, and I do think you can have great influence, and I do think you can be a Christian. Yeah, and I do think you can be wealthy, but I think it's what you do with all these things. When it talks about what does it profit a man to gain the whole world but to lose his soul. So I guess it depends on what you're leading your life on. That's kind of what you said, is that like, okay, I know I'm good at these things, but this doesn't lead my life. Like this, I am committed to God first. That's my first love. That's who I'm in pursuit of. And I think sometimes you do have gifts, natural talents that you will get into certain spaces, and I do think that's okay. And I think sometimes when you do get to certain levels, the Lord can use that for His glory. But I do think if you are doing things for selfish ambition, then yeah, I think that's the problem.
Yeah. Okay, nice. And you see, like, athletes, musicians, actors who are really open about their faith. Some seem to navigate it well, and others kind of struggle with it. Not to, like, put anyone on blast, but just to mainly give, like, examples of what the tension can look like in real life. Are there any examples that come to mind? And I can go first if you like.
Yeah, because I know
Cool.
it's coming to mind. Thinking.
Yeah. I think a really good example of a celebrity who's, like, struggled with their faith openly is Justin Bieber.
Oh wow, I never thought about him.
Yeah.
Okay.
I used to be a believer
Oh,
back in the day.
did you?
I did.
But it makes sense. It does.
Now I'm a Swiftie.
Oh, are you?
I am.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I think back in, like, obviously Justin Bieber, I mean, for people who don't know, Justin Bieber was raised Christian in Canada with his mom, didn't, like, know his dad at all. He left when he was younger, type thing. Then he was Christian, like, basically his whole life, and then he got into a lot of trouble with the law when he was like 14, 15, 16, 17, really, like drunk driving, like doing drugs and all these other things. And then in the last 4 years, I'd say, like, since he met Hailey and then they got married and now they've had their child, like, he's really been, like, putting Jesus, like, at the center of his life, like, in the way it appears. Obviously I don't know him, but he released a Christian EP that I feel like people don't really know that much about, but he did.
I
Yeah,
don't know. Yeah, you have to tell me. Okay.
he released a Christian EP. He was on he used to go to Hillsong, and he did a couple songs with Chandler Moore on stage.
Okay, yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah,
like Gyra,
yeah.
And has, like, recommitted his life to God, as he said. And he's been quite open about, like, struggling with faith as a teenager, and, like, you know, he's a very extreme example of, like, a mega celebrity, like, having everything at his fingertips. Like, you know, he spoke about, like, women, drugs, power, alcohol, all of it. And he didn't see the space to, like, put Jesus in that. Like, Jesus kind of seemed like he wanted him to not be able to enjoy any of what he'd worked for.
Right.
So he spoke about, like, changing his mindset to be like, this isn't, like, what I have is because of him, and the gift that he's given me is my voice, and how do I use that to give back to him, as opposed to, look at me, how amazing I am, look at all the people who love me, type thing. And he took time away from as much time as you can take away from the spotlight when you're Justin Bieber, but he took time away to kind of, you know, do the therapy and do the work to get to that stage.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my example.
Oh, do you know what's coming to my mind? I mean, to be fair, I'm not sure. I think some people would know him, but when I was younger, and I'd say this was my first representation of, like, oh my gosh, a Christian artist that's just unique, a bit different, like has a different sound. So I don't know if you know Montel Fish.
I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yes. So it's quite funny because I think a lot of people know him now not to really be you wouldn't really consider him as a gospel artist now, but when he was younger he would be on YouTube, he would talk, he was very, very open about his faith journey, his struggles. I was a massive fan of him, very, 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 very big fan. I was like, what's ambish, what's ambish? And I think it's quite interesting because now, like, kind of seeing his journey, I believe he's signed to maybe a record label now, and I guess my example is I've seen it, I guess, the other way, where I've seen opening now, as he used to profess Christ and he was very bold about it. Now he's kind of, I remember, I think he said that he did an interview and he was just saying like he's always wanted to be famous, and it was really interesting because watching him growing up, that's not something I saw. So I think maybe as time went on, music really became that's his first love now, I'd say. And I think that's quite interesting, but it's hard as well because, but then also I think when you have gotten to a place of you are in the spotlight and people are watching your every move, and I think sometimes what it is that from trying to understand him a bit more when he's spoken about it, is that people tend to make you a role model when you don't want to be a role model. That's not what you're actually trying to be.
Yeah.
And I think when people place you on a pedestal, it's a bit like you feel like you can't really make a wrong turn or wrong decision. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on, I'd say, Christian artists. So even not even just music artists, but teachers as well. So yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I was just thinking like there are definitely unique challenges that Christian celebrities face that regular celebrities don't face, which is definitely that idea of being on a pedestal, even if you don't really understand it. Like if I think about myself 13 to 20, if I'd become like famous for something and I'm still trying to figure out my own journey with Jesus and what that looks like and everything else, you'll also have all these like outside like voices from people who aren't necessarily Christian saying like, oh, you're this, you're that, and like feeding this ego.
Right.
I feel like that must be pretty tough to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's hard. I would struggle.
Yeah.
I would, yeah.
Because I know one of my friends worked as like a videographer and worked on some pretty cool things, and he said that there are a lot more artists, like he was talking about music stuff because that's what he does, but there are a lot more artists who are Christian than you think, but they don't want to actively come out and say it.
Wow.
And I'm like, I guess it's because of this fear of then every single thing that you do, it's like you haven't just gone to a party and worn this, now you're being judged because you're like immodest or something else, you know what I mean? And I think there is a lot of judgment in the Christian community.
I think so.
So yeah, it must be tough.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's so easy for results like grades, job titles, medals, how many people are following you on Instagram, money, to become like our identity instead of something else?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember somebody was saying, I think it was a conversation on TikTok, and they were basically kind of saying, he was saying he feels like we live in such a lonely generation. And I agree. I do think so. I think that's why social media has become so important now, or even like in a job aspect, in different ways, because I do sense that people are just searching to be heard or feel seen. And I do think that's why it is easy to make these things who you are, because I think if you're getting if you feel like you're getting genuine connection from these things, then it does become like, okay, like I need to be this person, or I do think it can be attached to loneliness and can be quite difficult in that sense. So yeah, that's what I see.
I think for sure, like finding faith for me kind of really saved my life, because I think everything else, like when I was, well, I still do track, as I said, but when I was doing it at uni in second year, the end of second year, I actually ended up breaking my ankle because I decided to play rugby, which is a really stupid decision. But I love rugby, so I don't regret it. But like I broke my ankle, and at that point I did have my identity as like Alex, and if you asked me to describe myself, I'd say I'm a runner.
Right.
So then having a broken ankle, like okay, fine, you're still a runner, but you're not actively a runner anymore. And that was something that I used for everything. Like if I was having a bad day, I'd go for a run. If I was having a good day, I'd go for a run. Like, you get the gist.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden that was taken away. Like it was like not just one bad day, it was like multiple bad days, and I couldn't do the one thing that I used.
Right.
So it's the same for me with like academics, like getting a bad result, like, you know, I'd go for a run or I'd call someone or whatever. So with everything that I wanted to do in my life, I realized that like putting myself as this, like, these are the things that you are, and none of those were to do with like Jesus or faith. It just didn't work, because when I broke my ankle, I lost my identity, and I completely like spiraled and didn't, like, genuinely did not know who I was anymore. I was like, I need to like redefine myself, and I started doing like crazy things, like going to like cheese rolling societies, and like I was
So, but do you think that, so you were searching, like you were trying to, okay.
Because I was like, I've lost that identity, and that's who I am.
Right.
So now I need to find who I am again. Like I need to like reinvent myself type thing. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
But like finding faith was like, at the end of the day, like the most important thing that I am is a child of God. And he doesn't care if I have a broken ankle or not. He doesn't care if he doesn't look at me and say, that's Alex, the runner. He looks at me and says, that's Alex, that's my daughter, and I love her. Like, even if I never ran again, he wouldn't care. And then it was the same for like academics. If I never got a good test result, if I didn't graduate university, he wouldn't care. So it was just realizing that this was like actually a safe space where he saw like every single part of me, which was definitely scary for me at the beginning, because I'd be like, wait, you're like actually like in my thoughts and stuff.
So funny. No, I get that, because I can relate to that as well, because for a time, I think when I started to release music, I was like, oh, this is my passion. This is what God has called me to do on earth. Like, I found it. I'm so happy. Like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But then I remember, I think it was COVID times when the world, shut down, and then things weren't as easy. And then I think I just stopped. But through that time, I think God is so kind, because through that time I was able to figure out like, oh, this is not the only thing I'm passionate about, and it's not all that I am as well. And I think that's important. I think it's important to give yourself time to discover different things that you are passionate about, and also definitely sit in your identity as a child of God, because that does come first. So yeah.
And I think we all kind of have moments when we feel ourselves pulled into like metrics, numbers, like chasing XYZ. If you've ever had that or seen that, do you have any like personal practices or things that you do in order to like re-center yourself on like God?
What I used to do is when I would post a song, I'd literally, right, coming off the app, not looking, yep, that's it, right, done it. And I think I'd do that because I was like, I don't want this to be the thing that validates me, if that makes sense. It like makes me think like, okay, oh, it's good enough now because people have liked it now. So I do think it's important to step away from things, especially social media. I do definitely encourage social media breaks. I think it can get to your head, especially now where it's like, it kind of feels like if you don't post, then you're not really, like, what are you even doing if you're not posting? So I do think taking time away and just I think that allows you to be a lot more authentic and like, who are you outside of all of this? And there was a conversation, like even with music artists, where it was like, nowadays, like with TikTok, it's more like they just want to hear a tune that's catchy. They're not really trying to hear the whole song. Like, that's the only part that they care about. And it was hard because it was like, okay, how as a music artist do I still remain authentic in that way? But again, I do think stepping away from that and finding out who am I, and walking in that and being genuine in it. So
yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
I watched this amazing sermon at the church I used to go to for uni with this guy called Joshua Luke Smith, and he's like an artist, kind of does like poetry, singing stuff.
Okay.
But he was basically saying like one way that he centers himself is just by remembering that like if he used the example of his daughter like coming down the stairs in like this dress that he'd bought her, like some kind of like fancy dress or something. And she was like, oh dad, do you think I'm pretty, blah blah blah, and he's like, yeah, of course you are. And then he was saying that to God we're basically like that, like in the way that of course he's going to say to us like, yeah, I'm proud of you, but like you can't impress God with a gift that he's given you. Wow. So like he said obviously like his daughter's beautiful, but he was like, if she'd been wearing like, you know, just like a Bing bag, he would have been like, yeah, you're really pretty, because he was like, he also was thinking like, I took you to the shop, like I paid for that gift, like you can't impress me with the, like impress me more with the thing that I got you. And it's like in anything that we're searching for like validation from, God's not going to be impressed by the fact that you're fast or the fact that you're like an amazing singer or you're super smart, because that's the gift that he specifically chose for you. Right. So like it's less let me try and like, you know, impress him and impress everyone else type thing, and more just like, he's given me that gift and now my gift back to him is what I do with that and how I steward it and how I use it. Yeah. So yeah, I guess my last question would be, if someone listening to this podcast is like an incredibly ambitious person, like say they're like, they want to be like in the stocks and shares, they want to be like some some finance person, or they want to be like an actress or a singer or whatever, like, and they're worried about how they balance like they keep their faith life healthy whilst doing that, what advice would you leave them with?
Parting words. Okay. I'd say the scripture that is coming to mind that I love, my favourite scripture is Jeremiah 29 verse 11. It says, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, but plans to give you a hope and a future. And I think because I'm a big dreamer myself, and I think in your pursuit of like, right, like I want to do this and by this age I want to do that, I think just carry that in your heart that God does have a plan for you, and it's a good plan. And I think also just be willing to be flexible with God, which sounds funny because it's like, okay, but like just be flexible in the sense of like, okay, you know what? I may want to go this way, but if God is telling me to go the other way, then I can trust that he has a good plan for me there, and he'll meet you there, and he'll go before you in it. And yeah, I think I would also just encourage them to keep dreaming as well. I think it's completely okay to be ambitious. It's completely okay to have goals and have big dreams, and you know, walk in that in excellence as well. But just know that God's plan will always be the best plan over any plan that you have. It will. It just will. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
That's nice.
What would you say?
Exactly that. Maybe I just add, the verse that came to my mind was, the Son of Man came to serve, not to be served. So I think anytime you feel yourself getting to a point where you're like, oh, I'm so much better than this person, or like I want to do this and I want to make money and I want to do XYZ, just remember that like, sure, like be ambitious, like have your dreams like you said, but the money that you make, then are you making that money because you want to watch it like collect dust in an investment account, or are you making that money because you want to, yes, provide for yourself, your family, like be able to do nice things, but then how much of that are you trying to give back to the church, and what ways are you using that for good? So just remembering that like God didn't come to earth to be like praised and, you know, be told like you're so amazing, you're the best, and have everyone falling at his feet. Like obviously that did happen, but he also had the other side where he was ridiculed and, you know, put to death. So like he came to, like, he washed the feet of his servants, so his disciples, sorry. But yeah, I think just remember that there's always the two sides. If you feel yourself getting to that point, for me, I also ground myself by then serving in some way.
That's good advice.
Yeah, to just like remember that verse and put it into practice.
That's important.
Yeah. Cool.
That.
So thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I think we've looked at the fact that faith over fame doesn't always mean turning your back on success, but it does mean asking what sits at the centre of your life and what you're willing to hold more loosely in order to hold God more tightly. And if you are listening and wrestling with ambition, image, or what success looks like alongside your faith, just a word of advice that you are, an encouragement, I guess, that you're not alone at all. Like, this happens for so many people, and it, you know, it's peaks and trials, like everything. So yeah, drop your thoughts or questions in the DM, send me an email. I respond to everything personally. And this is definitely, I think, a conversation worth continuing at some point. And next time on Jesus Will Works, the podcast, we'll be exploring something else in a couple of weeks. So until then, thank you for being here. Questions about limits, answers without judgment. Thank you for joining the conversation. See you in 2 weeks.